Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Great American Film Off. We are talking suspense movies today. But before we get into that, first of all, hello, Krosby. Hello, co-host
Hey,
Kros. How you
Dill, how
doing?
you doing?
Good.
Oh, good to
And
be here.
Krosby, I know you have a little bit of information to share at the top of the show just about our scheduling and things about
I
the podcast
do.
going forward. So take it away.
Yes. Very exciting news. I'm about to start my master's degree. And unfortunately, because of this, because I was bad at homework before COVID, um, it's going to cause our schedule for this show to be cut back a bit. So I'm going to be communicating with Dylan to see, what works for each one of us. But I think right now we're going to be aiming to make it a once monthly show. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I appreciate Dylan for letting me skate in and out and be part of what's such a lovely, lovely piece.
I mean, hey, this is our side thing. This podcast is like
Yes,
our
it's
a
true.
little bit on the side. It's our mac and cheese with our ribs. So like you got to handle the ribs first, and that for 4-course meal, you gotta focus on the entree. So yeah, so
Exactly.
we will be doing once a month shows, and if worst comes to worst, we can't schedule because Crosby's busy and doing amazing things. I might have a guest on, or we'll just push it another month. Like we can do
Yes.
whatever we want with this podcast. We can make it go so many different directions. And I am in a new location right now, shooting from the Jersey Shore. So if something happens with my
Look at
Wi-Fi, if I
that.
freeze, if I stammer or whatever, it's because of the Wi-Fi connection. And Crosby will jump in and just take a
I'll
reign of the
take it away.
conversation if I do. Yeah, but we're in the midst of summer. There are a lot of good movies coming out. Old came out with M. Night Shyamalan. Divisive.
Yes.
Some people love it, some people hated it. I enjoyed
True.
it. Candyman is coming out, so a lot of
Yeah.
suspense. So we wanted to focus
We
on
do. It's suspense titles.
movies that were suspenseful, but not just horror or not just thriller, but maybe a couple different genres. I mentioned last week, I was like, Toy Story 3, it could be one of the most suspenseful movies
Hey,
because of
it's a
that incinerator
suspenseful
scene.
film.
So any movie has a little ounce of suspense here and there. But this was a very fun topic, and of course, at the end, once we break down, we go through 5 rubric points. We each get a point. One of us will get a point for each rubric point. Who first to 3 points wins the film off. I believe I won the last one with basketball movies, so Crosby will have the first pick this time. And then at the end, we'll read your picks, what you suggested and what you sent in on Instagram. There were a lot of great responses for a lot of different genres.
Oh, goodness.
Some as far as DreamWorks animation, some as far as like Hitchcock. So like there's a big scale.
A few Luck of the Irish in there.
Right. Right. So Crosby, why don't you take us through this rubric for the most suspenseful movie ever?
All right. So we wanted to take into account, like Dill said, a lot of different genres when we're taking this in. So we've got our 5 rubric points. They're very specific today. So number 1, got the MVP of suspenseful performances. This is going to go to the performer who we feel like really heightens it up in this movie. Because when you're an actor in a suspense movie, it asks, I think, a different toolbox than a conventional film, because there's a certain amount of information you have to keep from the audience.
Yep.
That's the first one. Number 2, we've got the sounds of suspense, and that would be for sound and music. Sound and music, Dylan came up with this one. I think it's brilliant because sound and music really is like almost like 70% of the suspense. Like it's crazy because even with my film, which is very visual, and we'll get to in a second, the sound is just, it's so important.
It's like one of those things where if you watch a movie without sound, is it as scary? Are the jump scares scary? If we're talking horror, sound makes up a lot of it, and music.
It's true. The score. 3, we've got the Jaw Drop Award for the point during the movie where you really have to like stop and get your bearings because you're watching a movie, but it made you feel a certain way. There are examples of this, classics in all sorts of cinema, but in suspense, it is almost a third of the film experience is just getting that moment right. And we've got the Payoff Award. That's like the other 2/3, which is satisfyingly alleviating the suspense. After the end of all this, is everything wrapped up? Are the denouements acceptable to you as an audience member? And of course, to close it out, as always,
constant
Netflix and Chex Mix scale. How rewatchable is this film? / how much do you want to show it to other people? / how much do you want to watch it by yourself? / who even knows? It's an
legacy,
intangible.
all that. Yeah, it's a whole hodgepodge, especially with suspense. It's like, is the suspense ruined after you know some of the twists and turns, or can you enjoy it over and over and over again? So Krosby, so you and Uncle Drew were not victorious in your last fight. You were victorious, but you were not the winners. So I would love you to tell us, what is your most suspenseful movie ever?
I will do that. So for this category, suspense is a category that I love. It's where filmmaking, I think, sometimes kind of comes into its own, where you're like feeling things a long time. And over COVID, I got the chance to catch up on some movies that I've really shirked on for a year or two. And there was a film that I got to that changed the way that I felt about cinema. And that is my pick tonight. And that film is Parasite. Oscar award-winning film. Damn. Parasite. Oh, my God, Dylan, what a film! Truly, like, you watch Parasite, and I think that we should disclaim right here at the start that by its very nature, this is going to be a spoiler-ridden episode, because we're talking about Parasite. Exactly. We're talking about what makes suspense work, which is like secrets.
Right, exactly. Go watch Parasite, go watch my pick, and then come back.
Exactly, and then come back and think about how smart we are.
Especially yours, because it's so fresh and so new. Like it's something you gotta watch. You shouldn't get spoiled before you watch it.
No, you should. I will say that's wise, Dylan. I will say right now, pause the episode, go watch Parasite, find it somewhere, watch it, be like, oh, and then come back and listen. But yeah, final word on Parasite. It's a brilliant film. Changed the way I thought about cinema, and it's just, it's the acting is brilliant, the writing is brilliant, the direction is some of the greatest of all time. Oh yeah. Tell me about your film, Bill.
So you said you might know what I picked, and I don't know if you know what I picked, just because I was trying to think like the best way to encapsulate every genre, and I was like looking at there's nothing really romance, suspenseful. There, I could have gone the horror route, but I went somewhere in the middle. I went with a thriller, and I had to go with the master of suspense himself, Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm bringing the shower to the film off. I'm fighting Psycho as my pick for the most suspenseful movie ever. I know this might take people by surprise, because I haven't talked a lot about Hitchcock just on the show, but I am a huge fan. I was between a lot of Hitchcock movies, but this is the one that has always stuck with me. I know it's the cliche choice of favorite Hitchcock, but it's my favorite. That shower scene alone, which we'll get to, but so many other elements. It's not just that one element. It's
what a movie.
The encompassment of everything. I watched it the other night again for the multiple viewing time. I can't even put a number on it, but so I went with Alfred Hitchcock's classic 1960, I believe, Psycho.
Wow,
what did you think I was going to pick?
That's a great pick. Thinking? I love that. That's actually not what I thought you were going to pick. Okay. See, I thought that Dylan was going to pick his cult classic film, Uncut Gems, as his go-to, which is a great movie and a great.
I'll be honest, that was my backup. So you were kind of on the right wavelength.
I know you.
So if you want to switch to Psycho, I can fight Uncut Gems, but I'm going to stick by Psycho today.
I'll stick with Parasite.
Uncut Gems is so new, I give it another year or two to marinate. I mean, Parasite is too, but it's got the awards to back it up. So all right, let's dive right into the MVP.
Okay, let's dive right in.
Performance or performances, it can be a few, but you can pick one or multiple.
So it's interesting. When I was thinking about this award, what I realized at the end of the day was, and I'm just going to say right at the outset that I am a horrible pronouncer of names, and I have complete ignorance of the Korean language. So I will be, for the most part, referring to these characters as their sort of stock character names, like the poor father, the rich father, things like that. Just I don't want to be disrespectful of people's names.
Of course.
So it's tough, because there are certain performances like the wealthy mother and the poor father that just sort of explode, where you're watching them and they really pull you into the point where you're almost another character in this kind of modern Tartuffe. Right. But I realized at the end of the day that because I couldn't quite put my finger on any one performance, I almost had to give it as an ensemble award.
Yeah.
Because this movie displays a remarkable ability to have almost every character feel like both a main character and a side character. It has this real intense build deep within the movie. And for those of you who don't know, watch it. But it's about a poor family almost subverting its way into a wealthy family's existence, and then the secrets that they uncover. And every single actor is cast correctly.
Yep.
Like, you don't see this that often. Like, every
No.
single actor is cast correctly. And look, I'm not going to be this guy. I love American film, but I feel like, when was the last time you saw an American film other than Trial of Chicago 7 that was like cast in a way where you basically had to say, this is it. These are the people who should be doing it, and that's it, and that's final. And so for this one, I know it's a bit of a cop-out, but I had to give it to the entire cast. I had to give it to the man living beneath the house. I had to give it to the housekeeper. I had to give it to the wealthy family, to the poor family, even to the tiny parts that are only in it for 10 or 5 minutes. They set the scene almost Coen-esque.
Right. And like you said, there were some that are flashier, of course, like the father of the poor family. You know, it's mostly like he's the lead, I would say, of the movie.
Yeah,
but you do have so many different characters. I mean, I love that performance of the housekeeper because it's that earlier on where you feel like kind of sympathy for her when she like loses her job, and the peach montage, which I love. But like that moment where it's just like it rips your heart out because you're like, you feel bad seeing this lady like lose after like taking care of this family, but then you find out that she's been hiding this guy in her basement.
What the fuck?
And it takes a turn, and then she becomes the person who's like almost the antagonist of this family. And it's just so interesting how you can like turn 180 degrees on all these characters in the span of a whole film in 2 hours or whatever.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it's brilliant. For me, it's tough because the stereotypical answer is to say Janet Leigh. She was the woman in the shower. She got the Oscar nomination, but I've got to go with Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates.
I agree with this pick. I think that's a great pick, Dill.
Because, like I said, when we get to Netflix and Chex Mix Scale, we'll talk about rewatchability. But I think what's important with suspense is that most suspense movies have a twist. Mine has a twist. Yours has a twist. Yes. So it's really rewatching it. You have to be able to still stay engaged. And I think because he is who he is and who he is not, and who other people think he is, and vice versa, like. I think knowing the multiple layers to Norman Bates and knowing that the woman that he's talking to the whole time is really him as his mother, posing as his mother.
Such a good movie, dude. Such a good movie.
Voice. It's interesting because rewatching it, I'm even more intrigued by the performance, and I'm even more at the edge of my seat because I know he's going through all this stuff, and it's interesting to see him pull it off. Because at first it's like I'm rooting for the detectives, I'm trying to see how they pull off what they're pulling off, and I'm invested in what they are going through. But the second time and multiple times, it's like I'm now watching it from Norman's perspective and how Norman is able to keep up this ruse and keep up this facade of also being his mother and what he hides, and then at the end when he has that grin and it just lingers and then it becomes like almost like a skeleton, and then it cuts to just the last image of the car being towed out of the lake. And it's one of those performances that every time I watch it, I get something new out of it. But he does raise the suspense because the first time you watch it, you don't know if he's in on it, if what he's experiencing is also what these characters are experiencing, or if he is behind it the whole time. And I like that. I like not knowing what the characters know and don't know on the first watch, but then being able to see now, knowing what they know, how that recontextualizes the film the next
almost
time.
Like Training Day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Two very different films, but yes, exactly.
No, but we're on the same page. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know you meant. But yeah, it's a great role and it's an iconic role. It's still one of the best like movie villains of all time.
I think, and I love that pick too because it's like the serial killer, but before it was like cool to play a serial killer. You know what I mean? Like, what actor wouldn't give their left one to like play, any number of serial killers, like, because it's such an acting challenge, and that's what everyone says, and that's what everyone thinks of it. And one that neither one of us picked, but that was my backup, Silence of the Lambs. Where Anthony Hopkins plays the serial killer to such Oscar acclaim, and even in so not to be a hater of little things. Jared Leto, he gets an Oscar nom just basically for being a serial killer, like for playing a serial killer role. But this was before that, and I think that it's really cool that such an iconic performance almost defined a genre before it was a thing. You know, it's amazing.
Yeah. It's hard because it's like one going up against an army of ensemble
I,
performances, but
I have to give advantage to you, brother, because yours is a single performance. As much as mine, like the weight of that ensemble performance is incredible. Yours, I think, is more of a solo performance. It's the suspenseful king. And anyway, I think I'm
right.
taking the next one. So you
Yeah.
gotta.
Well, the next one is the sound and music. So,
Sound of music. Oh, actually.
yeah.
Oh, we'll
So
see. We'll
maybe a
see.
future one. Yeah, I'm saying.
Yeah,
But
we'll see. We'll see.
I'm gonna go first here, just because I think it's more of like the state the obvious. I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
everyone knows the Psycho music, and it's not just the it's not just that, but it's the build of her driving and that score behind her, because it's a lot of the movie is characters on their own. You know, it's the girl by
Mhm.
herself taking a shower, the girl driving on her own, Norman
Mhm.
Bates, you know, going around because he's on his own. There's another woman there, even though it's him posing as his mother.
Yeah.
But I think the score does a lot of the storytelling, and the way it's almost like this sweeping, like like moving music, but at the
Yeah.
same time there's like the dun 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 dun, like it almost
Yeah.
kind of like stops
Yeah.
you in its tracks. And I think that's what the movie is. It's like you're cruising along the highway, literally driving, and then something stops you near your tracks, and you like fall asleep, and you wake up, and you go to this motel, and that's when things turn on its head. And then it's like, oh, you're in the shower, you're taking a nice shower, and then boom, there comes the shower scene.
Murdered.
And then they're searching this house, and then boom, kills the detective. I think a lot of the movie is symbolic of that, like flowing nature where it just starts moving at a leisurely pace, and then something just halts it in its tracks. And I think the score really emphasizes that, and the sound design is just brilliant. And you know, with suspense, you need that to build the tension. You know, music is so vital in
Absolutely.
that. So yeah, it's Psycho. So
It is Psycho, you know. It's
but Parasite has some good music, and it has some good sound effects. It's got some good
Parasite.
stuff.
It's so tight. The sound, the music, it's just tight. It's just perfect. Like it's like a snare drum. Like it's just
Right.
there, and it's really solid. I think I have to say it because it bears mentioning. The use of music in the Peach montage is ridiculous.
It is one of my favorite montages, maybe second only to Up. Like
I
really,
think
one
that's
of the
the
best
thing.
montages.
I think that it's one of the I will say I think there are like 6 respectable answers to give when someone's like, "What's the best movie montage?" And
Maybe we'll do it here on the show someday. Yeah.
That's not a bad thought. But I feel like in many ways the classiest answer is the Peach sequence from Parasite, because I think specifically to us as an English speaking audience, I don't speak any Korean, but as an English speaking audience, the ability to tell a story so effectively in a 5-minute chunk, using the classical music in the background and the power of sound design and dialogue, I think it speaks volumes. That being said, I'm not going to say that it's better than Psycho. It's Psycho. Yeah. Psycho is like, if you're teaching a film class and you want to show them how you use music to create suspense, you show them Psychos. It's brilliant, you know? It's
I will say, though, it's nice, though, in your case, the music does make it seem like it's a different movie. Like, the tone itself is, like, lighter because you're, like, watching this family get away with, like, kicking everyone out of the house. And you're like, ooh, this is, like, fun. And then the turn happens, and you realize it's much darker.
Like, oh, shit.
So that's where I think the music does serve positively, because it's leading you to believe the movie something it isn't until it is what it is. So I do like it for that reason, but again, it's Psycho. So
gotta give it to Psycho on this one. Oh my god, am I just gonna get swept?
I don't think so. I 2-1. My Wi-Fi is telling me my Wi-Fi is a little 2-zip. That's right.
2-zip, bro.
So I was gonna say my Wi-Fi says like it's low. So let me know if I ever cut out. But so we're moving on now to the Jaw Drop Award, and here's where I think you can make back some ground. This is the moment that makes you OMG the most, I guess. So Krosby, why don't you tell us what your jaw-dropping moment is? If it's not the Peach montage.
So the Peach montage obviously is incredible, but that's when you still think the movie is one thing, like that it's not. Like you think it's this kind of like, you don't know, maybe it's like a heist movie, maybe it's like an up-tempo comedy drama, like you're not sure what it is. Then at the exact midpoint of the film, in the script, at the exact midpoint of the dialogue, a doorbell rings. And the incredible thing, and the reason that I picked it as the moment, is that there's nothing exactly happening to let you know that something crazy is going on. But when you hear that doorbell, you know the movie's different now.
Yeah.
And like the first time I watched it, it made my jaw drop. It was a scene where the family, and like we said, spoilers in the beginning, the poorer family's kind of cavorting around the richer family's home, drinking their alcohol and eating their food, et cetera, having a good time. And the doorbell rings, and the family's supposed to be gone. And it's like, oh, what? Like, as an audience member, you just don't know how to react. You have to know who's at the door. And that, I think, is the definition of what a jaw drop should do in a movie, which is not really that it should fill you in on something, but that it should make you desperate to know more about what's going on. But how about you? There's some very solid moments in your film as well.
I mean, there really are, and I think there are two obvious ones here, and I'm gonna pick the more obvious one just because it's more iconic. But
sure.
I do have to mention the reveal where it is that he is his mother. I think is a huge like crazy jaw-dropping moment. But you've already gotten one jaw-dropping moment before that, and that is the shower scene. And I have to talk about it because it is so iconic and infamous. But it really does just turn the film upside down. It like just totally flips up the action upside down, because
absolutely
up until then you don't really understand, like, is this a movie about a woman trying to steal money and run away to be with her boyfriend? Like, it has to be something more, because that's the whole first half, is her running away trying to escape another person. You think that that's the movie, the suspense is her running away, but then you realize it's not. It's more about this murderer and this murder in the shower. And I think where it might not stack up with yours is the fact that going in watching Psycho, now people know about the scene and they know that it is Alfred Hitchcock, so they know what to expect. Whereas I think Parasite, it was like no one really knew what to expect at all. Psycho, it's like even audiences when Psycho came out probably had some inkling, like, this is an Alfred Hitchcock film, something's gonna happen, there's gonna be some big moment, because a lot of movies like Vertigo have a big twist, but this is the most iconic for a reason. It's because it literally, the craft itself is amazing. Just the different cuts. I think I don't know how many cuts exactly they did, but it was multiple, like maybe 100 something cuts and camera placements just for that one scene alone. Like, it's a very great masterclass of craft. So it's tough, and it's totally different because we're talking a little bit more horror in my sense, a little bit more.
It's true.
Different. It's Parasite's just such a different movie. So
Parasite's just Parasite, it's just like its own genre almost.
Mm-hmm. But I think because the tone of Psychos does still have that, like, kind of edge in your seat, like hauntingness because of the score, like what we just talked about. I think that's where I get a point for the music. But I think because the music is already there, it's leading us to believe something's gonna go wrong. Whereas yours, it's a complete blindside, because they're literally like, we're here in this house, we're rich, we are now living the glorious life, and it's raining. And then you get this doorbell and you think, I don't even know if it's raining yet. I don't even think it is.
No,
but you get
it is. It is raining at that point.
Okay.
Because, and that's part of it too, is at that point, it's like, what? It's just brilliant storytelling. It's just so well told, because it's like, no one should be out right now.
Yeah.
Who would be at the front door? It's a stormy night. You know what I mean? Like, it's brilliant because it makes you go into the characters' heads and say, oh, they're thinking of all the superstitions we would think of if it was a dark and stormy night. You know what I mean? Et cetera, et cetera. And it's just, I got to stick to my guns on this one for Parasite. But Psycho's got to be one of the top 10, like, wish you were in the theater when it came out moments. Because when that twist happened, it must have just been like, oh, like the whole.
Because also Janet Leigh was such a big star too. She was such a big star that, like, to kill off the girl on your poster was unheard.
Wow, that's actually a great point, Dill.
Yeah, because like Scream does it, but Scream did it decades later with Drew Barrymore. Like, so it's also trend-setting in that sense. To keep this fight alive, and because I do think watching both films personally, knowing what I know about both films, Parasites did shock me more.
Hey, we can flip for it. There's nothing wrong with flipping for it.
I think because the Parasite one literally changes the whole name of the game in terms of that film, whereas Psycho,
like a 90-degree almost.
Yeah, Psycho, it does, obviously it's a twist, but when you watch it back, it's still like, it makes more sense with the context of the tone already going on and what Alfred Hitchcock is known for. And while it's probably a more iconic scene, I think in terms of actual jaw-droppingness in the suspense, I think I'm going to go for you, Krosby. I think I'm going Parasite here.
Thank you.
Krosby gets his first point there. He needs 2 more. He needs to sweep the rest of the categories. It'll be tough. Here's the payoff. And remind us what the Payoff Award is, Krosby.
So, Payoff Award essentially is how the film or the story kind of ties up, and if it does so in a way that's satisfying to you as the viewer. Is there a payoff? Because some films don't really have a payoff, you know? Not every movie has its Kaiser Sose moment, you know, but
which is a great one. Well, that's
great one, yeah, and a strongly considered film for this category.
Yeah.
So for Parasite, the payoff of the film comes at like 4 different parts. That's kind of the crazy thing. Really, the payoff of the movie kind of starts when you realize that this poor family is starting to get its tendrils into this wealthier family, because it's a slower and a gradual payoff of getting all of the servants out of the house and getting them replaced by the members of the poorer family. But then as the movie continues, you sort of realize that there are these fake payoffs that happen. The wealthy family comes home. It's a fake payoff. They discover the man inside. It's a fake payoff. Really, the real payoff isn't until the very end of the movie, when you discover what happened to the poorer father after he kills the wealthy father. And it's one of the most heartbreaking series of shots and narration in art. And it is a payoff, but it's kind of like a realistic payoff.
And then there's that last twist even after that, where then it's like, and I hope one day I'll be able to then get you out, you know?
And that's what I mean. It's interesting because it's a payoff. Most payoffs kind of take you up, but that one kind of takes you down, because it's like, oh no, that wasn't realistic. I'm gonna have to, like, I'm not gonna get to know. But yes, that's what I was thinking for the payoff. How about you, Dill? Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, kind of similarly, there are a lot of different payoffs. You know, early on, you think it's about this girl running away with money, and then she gets killed. Payoff, and then it's, you think that there's this detective going in to investigate the murders, but then he's killed off. So then it changes again, and then it's this couple coming to try to rescue her sister, realizes she's dead, and realizes he's up to no good. And it's also the suspense of watching them try to navigate the Bates Motel, knowing there is now a killer on the loose. And I think the real payoff is knowing at the end, once you have him, seeing that, you know, that it's not just him like putting on a dress and pretending to be his mother, but like this actual, you know, supernatural rightness of the woman, like the mother living inside him. And it's quite haunting, and it's a great payoff for what has happened beforehand. I will say one of the only things about Psycho that I don't love is the way that at the end that one guy just kind of like explains the whole plot of the movie at the end. He's like, so here's what happened. So she lives inside Norman, and she's been dead, but Norman thinks it's his mother, and she lives inside him. It's not a transvestite, but it's like she's actually a part of it. Like it's almost like Alfred Hitchcock didn't trust the audience enough to understand. But I still love the movie regardless. It's still one of the perfect movies to me. But I do think the payoff is slightly blundered by that. But I think the last moment with his smile just then brings it right back to like, wow. So like he did get put up in jail, but like she got away with it. And like she still lives inside him. And it's that haunting moment where every time you watch it, it doesn't matter if it's the millionth or the third time.
Yeah, exactly. It still gets you.
It still gets you. So I think that last stare to the camera is definitely the payoff for me. But again, I think that one scene kind of a little, it takes it back a little bit with the explanation of everything that went on.
Yeah, it's a little ham-fisted.
Yeah, so I might have to go with yours just because there are so many different payoffs, and it's not just building to one final payoff. It's instead like a series of different payoffs.
It's almost like the payoff movie. That's almost like the point. You know, it's almost like we're going to get all these little seeds and we're going to plant them, and then literally every single one of them is going to be addressed unless we don't want to.
Right. It's a roller coaster. It's like, yep, there it is. And then,
exactly.
It keeps going.
It's that kind of cinematic experience.
So I think I'm giving it to you, Krosby. So you're tied now. 2-2. So you did make a comeback, but now this is going to be tough for both of us because I rewatch both these movies a lot. So Netflix and Chex McScale. Krosby, tell me about the rewatchability of Parasite.
So
specifically with suspense.
The rewatchability of Parasite. I think, and I'm going to be both my advocate and a devil's advocate. After you watch it the first time, it's never going to hold you as much as it did that first time. And that can be said probably of all movies in a lot of
Mine
ways.
too. Yep.
But I will say the difference is marked, but I think the reason that it's marked is because of how incredible your first watch through of Parasite is, where you don't know what the fuck is going on. And like, it could be a heist movie, but it could also be like a horror movie that just hasn't started yet. Like, you don't even know, you know? And so, like I'm saying, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. You don't get as much as you got on that first watch through, but each time you watch it, you'll notice different things. And you'll notice things where you say, like, my God, Bong, what an incredible director you are. Like, that's wild, you know? So I would say visually, incredibly rewatchable. From a plot standpoint, you'll still continue to uncover various things, but I think part of what makes Parasite watchable is the fact that it's pretty simple when it's all boiled down. It makes you think it's more complicated than it actually is, and that's kind of its brilliance, you know?
Yeah, it's like you never have to go back and explain the story to someone. Like, it's not like one of those movies where you're going to be like, wait, what happened? What? It's not a Christopher Nolan movie, you know? It's not.
Exactly, yeah.
But that's what makes it so good, is that everyone, whether your IQ is here or there, you watch the movie and you understand exactly what's going on. You do understand all those little social commentaries and stuff, but you understand exactly what happened,
right?
And you can be entertained by it all. So
yeah, no, it's true. It's and it's also, like I said, it's just visually stunning. You know, it's just one of those movies that's just a series of beautiful pictures.
It's like you can go back and watch for so many other things, not just the suspense of it all.
Yes, totally.
Whereas I think Psycho, I think, you know, a lot of fun, like I said, is going back knowing the twist of Michael being, or not Michael, I'm thinking Michael Myers, Norman Bates being, you know, his mother, but then also like the twist of, you know, knowing she's going to die halfway through, you kind of can enjoy it a little bit differently. I
you approach it differently. Yeah,
exactly. It's kind of like The Sixth Sense, and I won't spoil every movie in the world on this podcast, but everyone knows The Sixth Sense, and it's like once you know the twist, it's interesting watching back because now you know this whole time he's been dead, so it's fun watching it. Whereas here, it's like kind of a similar thing. Like now knowing that this Norma Bates doesn't exist, now watching Norman Bates. Yeah, you can kind of pick up on little clues here and there. And my favorite thing is the voice itself. I think it's a different voice actor, but just like when he has those conversations with her and when the camera decides to have that like overhead shot of him taking her down the stairs and she's yelling at him. And even from that angle, the first time you watch it, you think she's actually there just being carried down. But then you realize he's running down the stairs, just basically having this conversation with himself. And that is so much fun to watch on rewatch, to see exactly how Hitchcock hides those little things and hides those twists and turns
100%
right in front of your face. And I think that's one of the most intriguing parts for me as well. Like even the shower scene, I love watching it back because I like to see, you know, can you make out the fact that it's Norman, or like does it come across that it's his mother, or are you just caught up at the moment looking at the different angles too and how they just design that scene? Kind of what you said with Parasite, like going back and looking at the visuals, it's so much more exciting now that you've gotten the suspense and the surprise out of the way, to now just focus in on the other elements that make these classics, because Parasite's going to be a classic, and I think Psycho is absolutely a classic. So I think we're both in kind of similar predicaments because of that, because
I agree,
the suspense isn't as powerful the second time. It's just not. But I think it's just recontextualized, and it makes for a whole different viewing experience. But I think that's what makes it so rewatchable. So it's like it's a circle of life.
It's a circle of steel.
Right. Where are you leaning, Krosby, with this?
You know, I gotta stick with Parasite because it's my film. But I will say, I think part of the thing that's really cool about Psycho is that it almost demands a second watch through to account for the stuff that you missed the first time. But you know, it's funny because I don't necessarily feel this exact way, but almost the same could be said of Parasite, in that like you could go back and you could look at the stuff that you thought was important and be like, oh, actually almost none of that was important because it was this whole other thing that was going on.
Yeah.
So
my favorite line with Parasite. My favorite line is when she says something about like the nanny always ate for two. the housekeeper always ate for two.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
rewatching that, you realize it's because she would bring a whole second plate to her husband.
Oh, exactly.
And it's like, it's a detail you don't get. And then when you rewatch it, it's like, oh, she always ate for two. That's because she had two meals because she was literally feeding a whole
literally
person in
had
the
two
basement.
meals. Yeah.
Like those little details are just so cool. So like,
they're so
I want to
juicy.
give it to you, but I also I'm like, I can't stand down.
You know,
Psycho,
I mean, this
though,
one might be up to Siri.
I think Siri's going to decide our winner today, and I'm fine with that. I think
I'm fine with that.
These two
that's
films,
fair.
you know, they're both one word. They both start with a P, but they couldn't be more different.
It's true.
So I think we gotta take Siri. So I'm heads, your tails, as always.
As always.
Here we go. Siri, flip a coin. And the winner of the film off is Parasite. That's right. So Krosby wins this 3-2. He made the comeback. I got the first 2 points. Let's recap this. Most suspenseful movie ever. I picked Psycho. Krosby picked Parasite. Number 1, the MVP of Suspenseful Performances went to Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. 2, The Sounds of Suspense went to, as well, Psycho. 3, the Jaw Drop Award went to The Doorbell Ring, where we find out there's a guy in the basement in Parasite. 4, the Payoff Award went to Parasite for the most satisfying payoff with the suspense. And then Netflix and Chex Big Scale, the one that we rewatched despite the suspense not being the same every time, but being recontextualized and more interesting every time, is Parasite. And decided by Siri, but I think well-deserving. I mean, these movies really are.
I think either one would be well-deserving.
Yeah, so Krosby, you won this film off. I think we're about even now. I think I need to go back and see.
Pretty glorious.
I think we're back even, but we do have a fun show to share, to tease for next month, since we are doing this show monthly now. But first, let us take to the Instagram polls and see what our friends
Let's hear what these folks have to say.
So I posted a poll: what is the most suspenseful movie of all time? We got lots of great answers. Patrick, our friend Patrick, said Uncut Gems 1,000%. So he's on the Adam Sandler train. Short Little, I don't know who that is. Maybe I do. Maybe it's just a handle, Instagram handle. Says Mother, the one with Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, Mother. Okay.
Interesting film. Sure. I don't like that film very much, but I can see the suspense.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I don't know. Gavin also says Mother. That's interesting.
Wow.
Ben says Uncut Gems. So I think everyone's
kind of that.
Here. Lori says Titanic. An interesting one, because I do agree. Sure. I mean, you got your romance, but I mean, a lot of it is about this boat crash and who's going to survive. And I think that's a very interesting one.
You don't know where the gem is?
My brother Jake says, not a popular pick, but Hush, the horror movie where
a little
deaf
bit of
girl is broken in on. Another really good one. It's very small scale. It's very interesting. Gavin put another one in, said The Wailing. I've never heard of that, so I'll have to check
I've never either. That's cool.
Here's a fun one. I don't know if he was trolling us, but my buddy Jeff, who famously worked in the music direction department of Be More Chill on Broadway, answered The Boss Baby. So Jeff, you're I'll name your name, Jeff. You are infamous now for saying that Boss Baby is the most suspenseful ever.
The first,
so the first film. I'm assuming.
Not Family Business. I imagine.
My mom says Get Out, another great choice.
Get Out, great pick.
Very, very good pick, Jordan Peele. And my sister Nina says Jaws or Titanic, 2 ocean set
Jaws
suspense thrillers. Yeah, Jaws. I mean, I think Jaws would have taken number 2, the Sounds of Suspense, Sound and Music Award, because that music just so good in building that suspense. That was my backup to my backup, but a lot of great picks. Were you toying with anything else, Krosby? I know you said Silence of the Lambs was your backup.
I thought about Silence of the Lambs. I thought about The Shining. I thought about what else? Did I think about anything else specifically? Not really. Mostly it would because I was at first I was like, well, I'm gonna pick Parasite almost certainly. I'm gonna think about it for sure, but I'm gonna almost certainly pick Parasite. Rewatch Parasite. I was like, has to be Parasite.
Right.
And then I went for others, and I got Shining and Silence of the Lambs. But The Omen, there are a lot of really pretty tremendous suspense films out there. It's a great genre.
And from so many decades too, and different genres. Exactly. I picked a few different Denis Villeneuve films on my short list, like Prisoners. Prisoners is a great one with suspense.
That is a good one.
Sicario has that amazing sequence on the highway with the standoff. And then like horror classics, like newer ones like The Invisible Man, Quiet Place.
Totally.
The way they use sound in there too is really great. So
Quiet Place is a good pick. Yeah.
Yeah. So many good movies.
Babadook.
Babadook, yeah, new and old. I mean, so many good choices. So thank you for everyone who sent in suspense movies.
We appreciate
And
it.
hopefully we'll revisit something not necessarily suspense related, but maybe like horror related, maybe in like October
not?
when it's spooky season. Yeah, we got plenty of topics down the line, especially now
Yeah,
doing it once a month.
exactly.
We'll have so much time to just so many topics to digest.
Topics.
So let's tease this next show that will happen in September.
Alrighty.
We've been having fun with film on the show,
We've
but
been having a good old time.
we're sticking with film, but we are going to kind of put a little spin on it and do the Great American TV off. But the twist is that here's our twist. This is the best suspense film right here. The twist is that all the TV shows, we were picking the best TV show that was based on a movie. So there are plenty of examples out there. I mean, Krosby,
this is going to be
you and I went through.
I feel very strongly about this one.
Yeah, I mean, Krosby, you watch a lot of TV, so tell us just a little preview of that. Like, what makes a good TV show?
The thing is, there's some. I think in kind of the 2010s, they almost realized that you could do a lot if you took the vibe of a film and kind of put it to TV. You know, there's projects out there like Watchmen. They're making an Alien television show.
Mm-hmm.
FX's, I believe.
Yep.
There's a lot of really excellent television out there, and I don't want to get too into it because I don't want to spoil our picks, but. Right. I'm really excited to see what Dylan has to say because I'm excited to spar with him on this one.
And because it's harder to like sit down and watch like full TV shows for all these movies. Krosby and I will decide on like a list of just shows that we are both at least comfortable enough to talk about.
Yeah,
and then if there are any shows that like I know Krosby likes a lot that he might pick, like I'll watch maybe the first season of it. You know, like
same here.
Yeah, 10 episodes is easier than like, oh yeah, you're going to sit down and watch the entirety of Friday Night Lights, and then I'm going to sit down and watch the entirety of The Sopranos, even though The Sopranos is going to become a movie, not a TV show. It's vice versa.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what inspired this topic is the fact that we're getting a Sopranos movie. So we figured, why don't we flip the script? Many Saints in Newark, and let's flip it and make it TV shows based on movies. And then maybe somewhere down the line we'll do movies based on TV shows, but I think it's a better track record the other way around. But Krosby, before we send you off to your amazing master's degree, where can we find you on the internet?
Well, you can find me at Krosby J. Roza on Instagram. Dylan, how about you? Where can we find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at Dylan_Randazzo on Twitter and Letterboxd. You can find me here on the Dill Pickle Movie Network if you're watching on video. If you're listening to us on podcast, please give us a review. 5 stars is always preferred if you love this podcast. If you love Parasite or Psycho, give us 5 stars and tell us why. And then go subscribe to us on the YouTube channel because you can see our beautiful faces there as well. And we are so excited to bring you the Great American TV Off. It's a one-off special. We will get back to movies after that, but a Great American TV Off. And if it goes well, maybe we'll make it a mainstay. Great American TV Off next month. It has been a joy talking to you, Krosby. We'll see you next time.
Pleasure as always.